Hello and welcome to AFL Podcasts, the home of objective, up-to-date and independent reporting on Turkey. Don't forget to follow our reports through social media, on aflnews.com or through our mobile app. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Hot Pursuit, part of the podcast series with Ahval. My guest today is Dr. Kerim Has, joining us from Moscow. Welcome, Mr. Has.
Thank you.
The subject is the summit in Sochi today, the attendance of Vladimir Putin, Russian leader, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Iranian leader Rouhani. And of course, the subject matter of this summit was almost exclusively Syria and the situation in Idlib, and also the discussions about the murky or rather ambiguous buffer zone or security zone, as Mr. Erdogan calls it, and also the future constitutional committee work that is expected. But let's focus on what happened and what your reading is out of the press conference, out of this summit, regarding the situation in Idlib and regarding the situation about discussions about the buffer zone. Please give us your take.
Well, I think there were a few hot topics in the summit between the Turkish, Russian and Iranian presidents. And one of them, as you already mentioned, it was the Idlib issue, Idlib deadlock. And the other one is the fate of the northern eastern regions of Syria after the U.S. announcement of U.S. withdrawing from Syria. So, but as far as I understand, first of all, the sides agreed on fastening the Astana process and giving a new life to the process by attracting some observer countries into the process, about accepting some Gulf countries. Probably we will, in the following weeks, talk about attendance of some Gulf countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates into the Astana process. But at the same time,
given the rifts between Saudi Arabia and some Gulf countries and Iran, wouldn't that make the situation or process more difficult?
Actually, it will be more difficult for Turkey, but I don't think that it will be much more difficult for the Russian side, because in the post-conflict Syria, Moscow is trying to balance the Iranian and Turkish influence in Syria, and in this regard, Russia is inclined to integrate the Gulf countries, which are quite rich and quite in a quite positive situation to invest in post-conflict Syria. So it is important for the Kremlin. But of course, as you also mentioned, the relations of the Turkey or Ankara's relations with Saudi Arabia and Egypt and also with the United Arab Emirates are problematic. I think why? Because they are going to be observer countries. It is because mainly Turkey's rejection, probably. So they are probably going to be observer countries, but not full members of or guarantor countries of the Astana process as the other three. So the Astana process will gain a new life, I can say. But on the other hand, the Turkish side always stressed upon to begin a new military operation in northeastern Syria, or to set up some buffer zone in northeastern Syria. But as far as I understand, Turkish or Moscow, Moscow didn't give a green light for even a narrow-scoped military incursion of Turkey in Manbij
it means that Russia is maintaining its position to veto or to block any Turkish attempt to take control over or establishment of a buffer zone. But the difference this time is that joining this veto was also Iran, speaking a rather clear language and also coming out quite strong in terms of standing against such attempts.
Right, I agree with you. And as far as Kremlin still prioritizes a deal between Assad regime and Kurds yet, and probably it will keep its position pushing Ankara to engage with Damascus as the best way out for now, by referring the Adana agreement between Damascus and Ankara in 1998, as you know. So probably in the following weeks, Moscow may or would highly likely prefer first to see some concrete steps of U.S. withdrawal on the ground. And but as you also said, the Tehran was also against a new military operation of Turkey in northeastern Syria, and the President Rouhani also underlined the rights of the Kurds in post-conflict Syria. And it was a surprise, I think, for the Turkish side in this summit, because it was the first time that the Iranian side that much strongly underlined,
expressed itself so clearly, right?
Yeah.
And then the final point: how imminent is any military action in Idlib, which, according to the Russian camp, is a huge concern because up to 90% of the enclave is now under the control of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the jihadist group. But also, as expressed by Rouhani today, this seems to be a priority. But is it imminent? And where does Turkey stand after this meeting summit today? Just briefly, give us your take on that, Vasco.
Yeah. First of all, we can say that the Russian side is going to encourage Turkish army to fight against Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a terrorist organization in Idlib, which controls, as you said, 90% almost of the territory in a more effective way. Or otherwise, probably the Russians are also pushing Ankara to facilitate a Russia-led regime forces advance in a piecemeal fashion in the region. And in my opinion, Turkey's possibilities in Idlib are getting shorter now in compared to 5 months ago, when a large-scale military operation of regime in the region was on the agenda. But after the deal between President of Turkey and Russia, that operation has been delayed at the last moment, and that summit was also in Sochi. So in this sense, we can say that Turkey's responsibilities in Idlib has increased, and any threats which can come from the Idlib region, from terrorist or opposition groups against the Russian airbase in Khmeimim, will be accepted, will be overcome by the Turkish side, and Turkish side will be responsible by Russians.
In other words, Turkish side has enhanced its area of responsibility regarding it, and adding to this the Russian base of Khmeimim. Mr. Kerim Has, who joined us from Moscow, assessing and analyzing the situation after the talks summit in Sochi as part of the Astana process on Syria. Thank you for this conversation.
You are welcome. Thank you for hosting me.